Imagine a pastor stops mid-prayer, looks out at the congregation, and says, "I'm not going to lay hands on anyone until you're obedient." That's not a scene from a movie. That's not a dramatization. That happened in February 2026, inside a church in Apopka, Florida. And the price of obedience? $100,000. Not a metaphor, not a spiritual concept. A literal dollar amount spoken from the pulpit, mid-service with cameras rolling. And the person who said it isn't some unknown preacher running a strip mall church. She's the head of the White House Faith Office. She's the spiritual advisor to the President of the United States. Her name is Paula White-cain, and this is one of the most documented moments of high-pressure religious fundraising caught on camera in years. To understand how we got here, you need to understand who Paula White actually is and how she built herself into one of the most influential religious figures in America. Paula White grew up in poverty and dysfunction, abusive household, parents split early. She has spoken publicly about being sexually abused as a child and turning to faith as a way out. By her 20s, she was preaching. By her 30s, she was on television. Her show, Paula White Today, reached millions of households, and her message was a specific flavor of Christianity, one that tied financial giving to spiritual blessing. Give more, receive more. Sow a seed, reap a harvest. That theology has a name. It's called the prosperity gospel. And Paula White didn't just preach it. She built an empire on it. In 2019, she was formally appointed to the White House as a spiritual advisor. She led the opening prayer at the inauguration. She was given an official role inside the Office of Public Liaison. And in early 2025, she was appointed to lead the White House Faith Office, a position that gives her direct access to the highest levels of political power in the country. She is not a fringe figure. She is embedded in the system. She pastors City of Destiny Church in Apopka, Florida, and she is married to Jonathan Cain, the keyboardist from Journey. That's the woman we're talking about. Now let's talk about what she did. February 18th through the 21st, 2026. City of Destiny Church in Apopka, in Florida, hosts its annual Unleashed Conference. The theme this year was, "It's Worth Fighting For." Paula White promoted the event across her social media, inviting believers from around the country to come for worship and spiritual breakthrough. The event featured multiple speakers, worship sessions, and appearances by Eddie James, a well-known figure in charismatic ministry circles who runs a kids' ministry focused on reaching at-risk youth. Hundreds of people showed up. Families drove hours. Some flew in, and the conference was advertised as free to attend. No ticket price, no registration fee, just show up and worship. That detail matters. Remember it. Mid-service, during one of the evening sessions, Paula White stops everything. She pauses the flow of worship. She pauses the prayer. And she makes an announcement. She tells the room she wants $100,000 to come in. Not over the course of the conference. Not as a general goal for the year. Right now, in this moment, before anything else happens. She breaks it down for the audience. 10 people giving $10,000 each. Or 100 people giving $1,000. Or, if you can't do that, give 100. She tells them directly, "I'm not gonna lay hands on people till you're obedient." That word, obedient, is doing a lot of heavy lifting. In prosperity theology, obedience is code for financial giving. To be obedient is to give when asked without hesitation, because the act of giving is framed as a spiritual test. Refuse, and you're not just declining a donation request. You're disobeying God. And then comes the part that even her defenders have struggled to explain. She tells the congregation to make the checks payable to Paula White Ministries, not City of Destiny Church, the host venue, not Eddie James's kids ministry, which was featured at the conference, not a charitable fund. Paula White Ministries, her personal ministry organization. The money was directed, by name, to her. Now, there's a version of this where someone could argue it was just standard church fundraising. That happens at conferences all the time, right? Speakers ask for offerings. But the combination of factors here is what makes this different. She stopped the service. She made prayer conditional on giving. She set a specific dollar target. She directed the funds to her personal ministry. And she framed non-compliance as spiritual disobedience. That's not an offering. That's a transaction with spiritual consequences attached. This isn't the first time Paula White has generated controversy around money and ministry. Her history is long and well documented. In 2007, she was investigated by Senator Chuck Grassley as part of a broader inquiry into the finances of 6 televangelists. The investigation examined whether tax-exempt donations were being used for personal enrichment, including luxury homes, private jets, and expensive cars. Auntie Paula White was on that list, alongside names like Creflo Dollar, Benny Hinn, and Kenneth Copeland. The investigation ultimately ended without formal penalties, but the questions it raised never fully went away. There were other controversies too. She once publicly stated that Christians should not try to convert Jewish people, a position that put her at odds with mainstream evangelical theology. Her husband, Jonathan Cain, he'd made headlines when he reportedly recommended that married couples watch pornography together as a way to strengthen their relationship. And she has been linked to events and endorsements involving the Unification Church, the organization founded by Sun Myung Moon, widely considered a cult by mainstream Christianity. None of these are rumors. These are documented public statements and affiliations. So when the Unleashed conference footage surfaced, it didn't land in a vacuum. It landed on top of decades of accumulated red flags, and the reaction was immediate. Within 48 hours, Christian media outlets were running stories. Church leaders, one of the largest Christian news platforms, published an article with direct quotes from the conference. Protestia, a watchdog site that monitors theological drift and financial misconduct in churches, ran their own piece adding historical context and calling the moment a textbook example of spiritual manipulation. JubileeCast published a detailed breakdown under the headline, Faces Backlash. Christian forums and social media were flooded with reactions from believers who felt what they watched crossed a line that shouldn't be crossable. And the footage wasn't second-hand reporting. It was video. From inside the room, you could watch it yourself and hear exactly what was said. And here's the contradiction that makes this story so difficult to ignore. The conference was advertised as free. That was the stated premise. Come worship, come receive, come be part of something. No cost. And then, once people were in the room, once they were emotionally invested in the worship experience, once they were surrounded by hundreds of other believers in a heightened spiritual environment, the ask came. $100,000. Before anyone gets prayed for, before anyone gets hands laid on them. The free event suddenly had a price of admission that wasn't on the flyer. This is the prosperity gospel caught on camera in 2026. And the reason this footage matters more than the dozens of similar incidents from decades past is because of who she is right now. Paula White isn't just a televangelist with a megachurch. She holds an official position in the United States government. She leads the White House Faith Office. She has institutional credibility that extends beyond the church walls. When she tells a room full of people that God requires their financial obedience before she will pray for them. She does so with the implicit authority of someone the President of the United States trusts with matters of faith. That's not a small thing. That's a massive thing. And it raises a question that goes beyond one conference in Florida. The prosperity gospel has been around for decades. The playbook hasn't changed. A charismatic leader builds a following. The following is told that financial sacrifice is the path to blessing. The money flows upward. The leader lives well. The followers are told their breakthrough is just one more seed away. It's a cycle that repeats across cities, across denominations, across generations, and it almost always targets the people who can least afford it. The people sitting in those chairs, writing checks for $100 or $1,000, those aren't hedge fund managers. Those aren't tech executives with disposable income. Those are working people, single mothers, retirees on fixed incomes, families behind on rent, who came to a free conference because they needed something to hold on to. They needed hope. And what they got instead was a bill. So here's the question every person in that room should be asking, and every person watching this should be thinking about. If prayer requires a $100,000 buy-in, what exactly are you purchasing? Because last time anyone checked, prayer was free. It's always been free. That's kind of the whole point. And if someone tells you otherwise, if someone stands between you and your faith and says the bridge costs $100,000, you might want to ask who built that bridge and where the tolls are really going. Because the checks were made out to Paula White Ministries, not to God, not to the church, to Paula White Ministries. And that tells you everything you need to know. If this is the first time you're hearing about this, you're not alone. But this pattern has been repeating for a long time, and the only reason it keeps working is because not enough people are paying attention. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you want to see how another religious leader built a financial empire on the backs of believers, that video is on screen right now.